paid for this thing, so I like it. All
That's
right,
good.
we're here with the coach Joseph Claycomb.
What's up, Marco?
How's it going today, coach?
Good, good, man. Good. Thanks for having me.
Man, so Mike your son fought at FightersRep 16,
Yep, he
and
did.
we unfortunately he took a loss. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Was
afterwards there was a little bit of controversy about it seemed like a little bit of controversy about whether karate it works well in combat sports. You seemed a little passionate about it, so I wanted to really give you a platform to
uh,
speak your mind.
I appreciate it. Yeah, actually, karate got him to the title, didn't it?
Dude, you know what? I'm gonna tell you something. When people talk about like karate in sports, and I say karate, I know it's karate, but I'm a white guy. Like I'm uninformed. I'm the guy that you talk about when you talk about uninformed. Like I don't know a whole lot. I remember being a kid watching Karate Kid, and that was like all I knew. I knew my buddy next door. His uncle was really into it, and then when it came to actual seeing it in sports, it was Lyoto Machida was the first one who I saw that was very successful using karate, and
Yeah, and
and
he went all the way, right?
yeah,
So
not only did he go all the way, but until he lost, he was dominant. Like no one was touching him,
well,
and
he was dominant even after he lost.
right,
I
he
mean,
long career, right?
yeah, I mean, he. So what people don't realize is that Lyoto went 16 fights without losing a single round, and he was 17-0 before he lost. I believe he was 17-0, and he lost to Shogun, who's also a very tough. Everybody knows Shogun who
Right,
was. So, um,
right,
but even after he lost, I mean, he fought. He lost to Chris Weidman, for example, and that was a hard fought fight. And Leo was still in his prime. He showed everybody what he could do against Gegard and Wasasi. I mean, that was a karate clinic. So
right.
there's a lot of examples even after the title that showed what karate can do in MMA or even just combat sports. Period. So, um, but I find a lot of people. You probably saw my Instagram. I try to wait until Mike's not fighting before I start saying stuff. But people blame karate when the karate fighter loses, but they don't blame anything else when they lose. So it's kind of weird to me, like how that mentality is. But I think there's a lot of reasons for it. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I remember one of the big ones that I talked to this one guy one time. I used to do Uber before I'm a meat cutter. That's what I started out doing. I was a butcher. I did that for 15 years. And then I left my job. I went on to be a plumber. Now I'm a plumber.
Okay.
Uh, all union. I worked all union from I was a union meat cutter. Now I'm a union plumber. But in between, I did Uber. And I remember I picked this guy up, and we were just talking, and he was going to a karate tournament, full contact. I forget what he said it was, but
Yeah.
like,
Probably a Kyokushin tournament. Probably.
okay, yeah, he was a really nice guy, and I really liked him. We were talking about like fake martial arts. That's what we were like a big topic at the time because Joe Rogan
Yes.
always used to talk about it, and they would say like, okay, like uh, how certain martial arts they're not so much fake, but you're not going to use them in a real fight. Like it wouldn't work as well.
Right.
And I remember I brought up what's the Israeli practice, the Israeli army one.
Well, I call it something else, but a lot of people call it Krav Maga. I call it
Yeah,
Krav Maga. Uh,
okay, so I brought up Krav Maga, and I thought I was like, oh yeah, that's a real a tough one. And so what
yeah,
this gentleman says, and he wasn't a rude guy, and he didn't try to like gotcha, but he told me he goes, look, when you talk about fake martial arts, one of the biggest thing is you could never really practice a fake martial art correctly because and that's what he told me. He told me with Krav Maga, that's how he described it. He's like, if the idea is to break someone's leg, you're not gonna, on every strike, or however he was describing it, because he described. He's like, you're never gonna really practice it. So it's nice to say that you can do all this stuff, but until you can actually do it, you're not doing it. He was like, that's just kind of something that they kind of hype people up about. That was
Well,
his take on it.
well, if you want to touch on that, so Krav Maga didn't get popular in America until Jennifer Lopez used it in a movie. So, and then the Krav Maga that's here is not the same Krav Maga that the Israeli forces use, and so it's not the same thing. But also they use Japanese gis and they use Japanese belts, and so I can touch on that too. But
So I got a question, Coach. You're from Bahrain, you said, or where did you say you were
well,
from?
let me give everybody a little background.
There
So
you go.
I'm actually I'm born in Fontana. I'm born in Fontana. I was born in Fontana. I'll be 50 years old on the next FightersRep. That's one of the reasons I'm not going. It's my 50th. My wife's got some plans, but also I'll be out of the country to Bahrain because I'm actually going to go do a training camp and test some of my black belts that are overseas. But I grew up in Bahrain. So I'm born in Fontana. Genetically or DNA wise, I'm American. My mom and dad are biologically American. The Heinz 57, if you want to call it. But my father that raised me, my stepfather, he since I was 7, I grew up overseas in Bahrain. So I speak Arabic. I'm fluent. I went to the schools there. I started my martial arts over there. I did not start my martial arts in America. So my karate was for self-defense purposes. And as a person who used to get bullied and picked on and beat up, actually, like in the street, I've had lots of street fights. It's not something I brag about, but I use my karate for real. I don't care if it doesn't work in combat sports. I know it works in the street. However, I do care that it does work in combat sports and in point sport karate as well. But yeah, I'm from Fontana. My dojo's in Fontana, coincidentally now. So the stars kind of aligned, right? But I grew up over there, and I came back later in life, as an adult, and then just kept on training. And my son was, Michael. He was born when I was, practically born from a dojo too. So raised him in my dojo, and he's in diapers the whole time, and that's how he's he's the real Karate Kid because he didn't come from a movie. He actually lived in a dojo. So, his whole life. So, and that's it,
Nah, it's awesome, man. So what got you to start karate?
Well, I always had a fascination. So I don't have it with me. Well, I do. It's in my living room, but I have a book that when I was 5, so ever since I was 5, I had a fascination for martial arts. And when I was 5 in 1978, I bought my first book that was printed in 1977. It was a Q&A book about martial arts. So anything you want to know about martial arts, it had everything. Kind of like what's karate, what's kung fu, what's this, what's that, what's a black belt, what's judo, who's Bruce Lee, all that stuff. And basically, I read that book from 5 years old all the way till, I still have the book. It's falling apart, but I started, learning about martial arts when I was 5, and I started kung fu when I was 7 in Watts, LA, in a mosque, a masjid in Watts, and I actually was taken to the neighborhood, the neighborhoods in Watts with a lot of other kids that were poor, and the person who took care of the mosque used to do kung fu in the park with all the kids, and so he would take me, and I would go, and then when I moved to Bahrain later down the line, I was 10, and I started doing some taekwondo as well, and then once I hit karate, that's when I said, "Oh, this is what I want to do."
Okay.
And once I landed in Shotokan, that was the art for me because it was very well balanced. It had almost everything I needed. I was getting bullied. I was getting beat up by multiple attackers at once, not just one at a time. From multiple at a time to rocks and sand and, elements of the street. not just one-on-one with a code of honor, but they want to beat you up, they're going to beat you up no matter what they want to do. So
Right.
I needed something to help me. And once I started learning karate and started training, I got what I needed to help me, but I fell in love with it too. So it's a combination of needing some self-defense that works and passion, and then it's been what I've been doing ever since.
All right.
So,
All right. That's awesome, man. So what was your first experience with karate and combat sports? Like, what do you remember?
well, I had to leave the country to go compete in sport tournament, like in tournament karate. And back in my day, we didn't have gloves. My sensei used to bring cotton pads from overseas. So my sensei, Mark Cups, he was from England. And whenever he would go back to the UK, he would bring some stuff back with him. So we actually trained sparring, bare knuckle. When you say point karate, it hurt. It's not like today's point karate. It's not at all. So, we're saying before the internet times, we're talking Betamax era. And so sometimes would have sparring training, and he said, "Okay, guys, sparring last half hour," and we'd go pick a glove. There's a glove, and there's a shin. So I'd have one glove and one shin, and that's what I'd spar with. We didn't have mouthpieces, cups, nothing, right? When we decided we wanted to do a tournament, we had to leave Bahrain and go to Saudi Arabia and drive about 2 days in the desert, across the desert, to compete in a international tournament that was in the Hilton. I think it was the Hilton at the time. And there was people from the Philippines, from Saudi, we were from Bahrain, people from the UK. There's people from all over the place. And that was my first tournament. It was a brown belt. And I thought I was good, and I got hit so hard. So I learned that I had to be good. And point karate back then was a point meant you got hit, not touched. There's a big difference. It's not this tag stuff you see today in the Olympics. And then, when I came to the States for school, I did more karate tournaments as well. I delved in a little bit of kickboxing. Of course, I've done many different things along the way. It wasn't until I started saying I want to show what karate has for MMA before I started getting involved with it. After, I didn't really like MMA before because it just seemed like the culture wasn't in line with traditional martial arts. Traditional martial arts is about character. It's about respect, honor, integrity. You learn it for real. You don't learn it for points only, or for the thug mentality that you see in the mixed martial arts scene, or even the kickboxing scene, where right. It's just it's entertainment, right? So it's a little different. But I've done MMA, I've done kickboxing, I've sparred, I've done boxing as well, because I'm curious. I like to know how things relate. And I sparred a 19-year-old in boxing, and luckily I had good footwork. And before my son was born, my coach said, why couldn't I have you when you were 21? You're a little late in the game. I'm like, well, it's just the way it is. But I learned all my boxing from a private coach who used to be in the time of Sugar Ray Robinson, and he was 15-6 as a professional. His name's Tommy Noel, and I think he's in his 80s now. But he taught me a lot of fundamentals and boxing fundamentals. I wanted to learn boxing the real way because I wanted to relate it to karate and see what were the similarities. And I searched for karate people that would have any kind of, I want to say crossover a little bit, just to kind of see all these techniques we have in traditional techniques, who uses them in, drills and in sparring, and not a lot of people do. This is before I met the Machidas as well. So I found somebody who I thought was a legitimate person, and his name was Tommy Noel, and he had a website called Old School Boxing. When I mean old school, I mean this guy's old school. I mean, so I did that. And of course, I've done full contact karate as well. I've cross-trained with Kyokushin people as well. So I know how leg kicks work. And so that's one of my favorite things is leg kicks. So you don't have to stretch very much. So it's easier to kick lower, right?
Right.
But yeah, I've done a lot of different things. And but I want to say my main passion is to show karate's effectiveness, regardless of the platform. And for some reason, as a dojo owner, being one of the very few people that actually own their dojo, and I mean that in a way like pandemic came along, shut the world off,
Right.
and all the karate people disappeared. All the community centers shut down, all the dojos closed. I said, I'm not going to close. I'm going to keep going. And I'm going to show when you say, I want to show people what determination is, you have to live it, So I was no longer the landlord. We purchased our building and our dojo is a permanent fixture now. So we are not going anywhere at the whim or the mercy of a landlord so that I can keep teaching the karate that I know works. And everybody who sees what Michael has done in the ring, the 5 fights that he has had, that's just for kickboxing. That's not for MMA. Right. There's things that I can't even do in the drilling because of the rules.
Right.
That there's nobody who will know what those are, the techniques and strategies, because we are restricted. So, Muay Thai people think they're restricted by no clinch. We're restricted by no sweeps, catches, throws, joint locks, chokes. We're restricted more because, our style or our art has all of these things for real life. Our sport restricts us too. So we kind of feel like we're restricted, but we're also like there's a Pandora's box that's waiting to open. So MMA actually, although I don't like the culture of MMA is the perfect template for my karate to be demonstrated.
Okay, that's awesome. My question is, what bothered you so much? Because I noticed when when George did his live chat for the Fighters Rep recap, him and Chris Cully, and Chris Cully was talking about Mike's got to learn some other techniques. It seemed like that kind of bugged you. I remember you put a line in there saying you don't expect a 9mm to change its.
I never expect my XD9 Springfield or any of my other handguns or my rifles to change what they are. If I'm going to shoot my 12 gauge, I expect my rifle to just do its thing because it's consistent. I don't expect the 9mm to say, well, I got to turn into something else to be effective. I don't believe in that. I believe if my technique is faster than yours, you can't see it, it's more powerful, you can't defend it, it doesn't need to change. And that's what we strive for in karate, is perfection, is to fix or adjust or train something to the point in microscopic level, not just, oh, okay, I did this 20 times, now let's move on and add some stuff. So Michael didn't perform, not karate. It's, we have uppercuts, we have close range techniques, we have long range techniques. So if I go down a list of punches we have, just in English, we have straight punches, in layman's terms, jab, cross, stepping punches, lunging punches. We have uppercuts, short and long, orthodox where the hand is facing you, and another way, which is where the knuckles are facing you. So it's a different type of rising punch. Then we have round punches like hooks and round punches long. Then we have hammer fist, which is what people think is ground and pound. Then we have back fist, front and back hand. Then we have elbows. We have clinch. We have knees. All of those techniques we do in karate. So it's not about somebody needs to learn something. That's what kind of irks me a little bit, because people just judge karate for their child karate or their experience in kids karate. And what is in kids karate is like, you don't judge Shakespeare when you have a elementary school education.
Right.
So if you say Mike needs to learn this, or Mike needs to learn. Well, Michael's a fighter, and yeah, he always needs to learn. That's just the name of the game. But nobody was saying that when he won his last fight, or the fight before, or the fight before, or the fight before. And just an FYI, Coach Rage did not join forces with me until his third fight. So that was all me teaching my son. So if he looked good in the first, second, or third fight, or even the fourth fight, that was all karate.
Right.
You know, so, and the cool thing about Coach Rage is him and I have such a beautiful vision together that I'm trying to show, you know, Dylan and Raymond the karate relation that helps their boxing and their MMA skills and their kickboxing skills, whereas he's bringing to the table the things that I can give Michael as well, so that I don't have to. And Coach Rage is one of the most technical boxing coaches I know. That guy's a beast. Let me just say this. Rage is 17-0 in MMA. There's a reason he's undefeated. And then he's also one of the most loyal people in the world. He's a brother, and he is a gem. He's like a diamond in the rough. You know what I mean? Like, so him and I have teamed up together with one mission, which is to climb to the top of Everest together. And Michael just happens to have the abilities and the talent and the desire. And so far, we haven't unlocked what Michael can do. You know, it's just one fight doesn't determine what somebody needs to do. You know, it's the fight game. You're going to get punched. You're going to have an off day. You're going to have a tough opponent. I don't want to discredit his opponent at all. Kudos to David Rivera, you know, hard hitter, tough guy. I mean, he's really a really, really good opponent. But we feel Michael didn't show up. Michael showed up, you know, with the right, you know, attitude and spirit, but he was off. There was something wrong with him. And he didn't realize until after that he was having vision problems. So again, I don't want to take credit from the current champ. Michael's not coming back to the fight game until I get him a laser eye surgery. He has astigmatism and he can't see 5 feet away from him.
Oh, wow. So
if you thought he was good before, wait till he can actually see like everybody else in HD.
Right. So I got one question about the fight. When the round ended and he came to you, what exactly did you talk to him, if you feel like sharing any of that?
Absolutely. So, you know, when he came to the corner, you know, he got rocked. I don't think the 8 count was appropriate because he could have hit back, and he has a slippery footing about him ever since he's a kid. He's had because his stance is also wide, and he slips a little bit. So sometimes he gets off balance, and the canvas was a little slippery. There was a lot of people slipping and sliding that day, but he got punched off guard with a lousy punch from himself that put him in a position where he got turned a little bit. Now, this is one thing about Michael that people don't really know is when he gets in the, you hit me, okay, I'm going to come back. He goes into a different gear. When he came back to the corner, he wasn't dizzy. He wasn't walking funny. He was walking straight. And I said, we got to reset. Are you good? And he goes, yeah, I'm fine. I'm good. My timing's off. And he didn't realize, you know, that he couldn't really, his vision was off too. So I don't want to make excuses to him, you know, but I forgot that he got brand new glasses 2 weeks ago. So I have a feeling his stigmatism in his eyes were still adjusting to the not wearing the glasses. You know, the eyes take time to adjust a little bit. That may be a factor. And then, of course, his attitude might have had something to do with it too. But he was fine in the corner. And I looked at him in his face, and he was looking me straight in the eyes. He wasn't like, you know, he wasn't dazed, nothing. Right. I said, let's go get this. Let's reset. Use your distancing. Use your timing. Let's go back to the karate strategy that you know. You're standing toe-to-toe instead of moving and using your angles. Let's do it. He said, I got this. And then he reset. He reset and he was ready to go. Now, usually you give a fighter a minute to recover if they're not injured. And we trained for, when he was preparing for a 5-round fight, we trained 10 rounds. His cardio was on point. I mean, he wasn't even sweating.
Right.
So he wasn't tired, but adrenaline, of course, does impact you a little bit. I just said, let's reset. Let's go. Let's do this. It's round 2. You're 2 points down because I gave you an 8 count. So with that being said, right when he's ready to go, the doctor calls. They come in and they say, doctor, come over, and he does a sprint to the doctor.
Right.
A straight line. When you're concussed, you don't run in a straight line.
Right.
When you're when you're knocked, you don't run, you wobble. You kind of like struggle to get there. Michael kind of ran a straight line, like 5 steps, boom, 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 stood still, and the guy said, turn around, So he turned around, and then they started investigating his eyes. What we never told anyone was he's cross-eyed without glasses.
Right.
The doctor thought one eye was slower than the other and said, you're concussed. I said, no, but he's cross-eyed. One eye is always like trying to adjust. He's had lazy eye his whole life. So whether one eye is this way or the other one moves a little different speed, it's because his eyes are constantly trying. So when we went back to the other doctor, they said it was kind of a soft call and that it should have continued. But since it's already done, we got to let it go. So he didn't have a chance to lose.
I feel you on that. I can understand because that's kind of how I saw it. I thought he had recovered. I thought when the rounded, I did think that was a lazy punch that he had threw, and it left his whole body twisted. That he was able to counter.
He did, and that's something that that's a Michael habit. So he told me that he thought he was in range, and actually he wasn't. So he realized he couldn't find his range. He was blurry the whole fight. He's usually blurry, but for some reason this time he was a little more. And he started realizing it afterwards, after watching. He was like, yeah, I was right there. I thought I was in range, and I thought I was here, and I thought I was there, and I wasn't. So he was out of his range or too close when he thought he was far. And those are the times he got hit. And David Rivera has a punch, so he hit him hard when he was wide open. I told George already, we don't want a title fight. If Rivera's out there, we want him. I don't care if there's a belt around him or not. We want a rematch because that was not a match. That was not a fight that he came. Michael didn't show up. I want to say he showed up, but he
not the version that you thought.
Not what we prepped, not what we trained, not what we anticipated, and that happens. It's the fight game. You're not going to win them all. I don't know. Do we know anyone who's undefeated? I mean, if they're not Mayweather, there's only one of those people. I mean, who are we talking about? Every single excellent Hall of Famer has lost a fight.
Right.
Or more.
And like you said, this is the amateurs. I think it's a better idea to stop fights late than it is to stop fights early in the amateurs. So I know it doesn't really help the fighter get better, if you stop it too early.
Right.
I always err on the side of caution when it comes to that. I always favor. I've seen from shooting up on top, working with George. I've seen the way the doctor talks to the fighters.
Right.
And so I know I've seen how they try to ask them questions and see how they respond and to try to make statements, and they make their judgment call. So I don't know, when they're not getting paid. I've seen fighters get beaten for no good reason. I do a lot of MMA shows.
I'm glad he was not hurt. Let's put it that way. I do think he was. I think Michael should have been given the opportunity to fight one more round. But David is dangerous. So, like I said, I don't want to negate from David's abilities. He's a tough fighter. He's a good fighter, and he's a dangerous fighter. He has a good eye for things. But But we still also feel, I personally feel, maybe Michael won't express this, but I feel Michael didn't have the chance to lose.
I
Um,
I
you
totally
know,
get that.
you know,
I have a
Al-
question. I have a
although
quick.
I am thankful he did stop the fight for the sake that nothing was wrong with him. So,
I got you. I got a question. When Chris Coley, and I had the same reaction as Chris. I'm not throwing Chris under the bus. Chris talked about blocking more. Are there blocking techniques in karate? I know that's probably a stupid question, and like I say, I'm that guy who never even tried anything. So I'm asking, do you guys have effective blocking techniques, or is it all just spatial relations, like Chris was implying?
well, here's the thing. So when people make assessments of karate, right? It's like they're making assessments off of 5, 6, 7-year-old karate, right? So, for example, uh, Michael hasn't been trained in adult competition karate, and then the type of karate that I came up in is more like contact than anything. Points are still contact. It's not. It's point. That doesn't mean there's any. It's contact, and we call somebody who gets a point and gives the other guy a black eye. We call that a black belt point. So, uh, you get punched in the face, and it's a little hard. Well, that's black belt point, no problem. You're a black belt. You get hit hard. Great, keep going. So when you hear things like they don't have this or the karate guard, and I'm not afraid to say, but I think it's ignorance and it's plain ignorance when you say something like karate guard. There's no such thing. We have high guard, we have middle guard, we have low guard. We have whatever the situation is that we need to do. And for people that may or may not know anything about movement, you can't have your hands way up here either if you want to move correctly. You have to have a sort of navigational, your hands kind of help with your shifting and your moving. We have body movement. We have deflections. We have parries. We have blocks. We have checks. If you want to find out the least affected, or I want to say the person who had the least damage to win a title in the UFC was Lyoto Machida. So, statistically speaking, if you want to talk about who has an effective defense, just look up the person that had the best statistic to win a title ever. Go look it up. You'll find out. Not a single round lost. Shotokan guy just like us. Applied his karate for MMA. Learned some grappling and some wrestling as well, because that's what the rules dictate. The rules keep us from slamming people's spines in the back of the head too, like 12-6. That's an effective karate technique for us, but we can't use it, we can't do finger manipulations. We can't do any of that stuff. So, we get restricted in the rule set. But if you ask anybody, is this available? It's almost like, do you guys have stances? Do you guys have kicks? Do you guys have punches? We have everything. Every single martial art has. What you see in a sport rendition of a art, it's like, how many cards are in a deck? We got 4 of everything, right? We got ace all the way down to 2, right? We got king, queen, jack, 10 all the way down, right? How many games are there though with a deck of cards? So we don't say, does Crazy Eights have a 2? Does Crazy Eights have, a 7?
Right.
No, we have a full deck of cards. It's just, which rules are you playing today? Are you playing point karate rules? Are you playing kickboxing? Are you playing Kyokushin? Are you playing Kyokushin full contact with head shots? Are you playing Kudo, which is like Kyokushin with grappling? Are you playing what we call free sparring, which is anything goes in the dojo? So we have something called Jiu Kumite, which means free fighting. It's any weapon you can use. Now, of course, we also have this code of honor, which is don't hurt your partner because they might not show up on Tuesday for you again. But
Right.
there's something called free sparring. Free sparring in Japanese karate means any technique: chokes, arm bars, wrist locks, and not just the generic stuff that you see in BJJ for MMA. I'm talking about things that are meant for civilian self-defense for real life. So free sparring is let it go, guys. You got all these techniques, work them. And so that's karate, and karate literally means empty hand. So anything without a weapon is deemed, the art. If I turn you around and I say, which style hit you, you're gonna probably say the one that hurt.
Right. Exactly. I feel you there.
So,
I got a quick question. You brought it up on one of your TikToks, or one of your videos you made. How many different styles are actually karate? You had brought it up.
Okay, well, that's actually a really cool question. I like telling people because so karate has origins, right? It goes back to Okinawa. It was called Okinawa te. Te meaning hand, right? Or the system of self-defense. They just say te for, hand-to-hand combat or self-defense system. Okinawa te is where it comes from. It was not called karate. Okay. So the person who named or made the word karate, his name is Gichin Funakoshi. He is the founder of Shotokan Karate. And so the first style of karate to be actually called karate is Shotokan, what I study. Not Kempo, not Kyokushin, not Rex Kwando or any of these things, right? So the person who created the word karate, what they did was, because it has a lot of influence from China, it used to be nicknamed China Hand. And so when they introduced it to Japan, the political thing between Japan and China, that history, you see it in the kung fu movies, where the Japanese and the Chinese have this political thing going on. Japan
Right.
kind of, Japanese were not really liked at the time, during the World War something, So they changed it from China Hand, which how are you going to introduce it to Japan as China Hand? So they changed the character, the kanji character that sounded the same, but meant different. So it meant Chinese influenced martial arts, and it changed to empty hand martial arts. So empty hand or karate, just like open mic, karaoke, karaoke.
Oh shit! I never thought of that.
You see? So cool, right?
Yeah.
So karate and karate do meaning the way, the character, the philosophy, the way you think, the principles, the spirit, right? Karate jutsu is karate method. So jujitsu is soft method. Karate jutsu, aikijutsu. Jutsu just simply means method.
Okay.
So jutsu isn't reserved for some Brazilians who just wanted to, plagiarize. So I'm very open. I'm very outspoken. Because I'm passionate, but I just don't like how it's perceived that karate people need to learn more.
Right.
Who knows karate? Who
Right.
knows? Who knows it? I don't even know it.
Yeah.
I don't even know it. I've been doing it for 43 years. I'm still learning my art. And so, and I'm addicted and I'm obsessed, So if you didn't do it more than for a little bit of your childhood, there's no way you can judge it.
Okay.
So, you want to judge it, you need to dive into the journey. So anyone that does not have at least 20 years of karate serious training are not a karateka to me, because you used to just do it and now you quit. A Karateka never quits it. So it doesn't matter how long you did it. I don't care if you know a little bit about it. You're not a karateka if you stopped. Therefore, Tully, as much as he's a respected guy, and I think he's a cool guy, he's a really cool guy, but he's not a karateka. Neither is David Huey, nor is anyone else in the fight game. So nobody knows what karate is. If you know, just like I'm not a Muay Thai fighter. I'm not a Muay Thai person, right? I don't study Muay Thai. Although I do know that traditional Muay Thai is called Muay Baran, and it's very similar to karate in many ways because it's very traditional. There's patterns, there's forms, there's self-defense. It's not just with gloves. And it's very principle-based and philosophical. So, you know, I prefer traditional arts because they have a lineage, a history. They're not just for making money with bets and, you know, entertainment, but they're for real people of all ages, shapes, and forms. You could be old and do Muay Baran. I doubt you're going to do Muay Thai the rest of your life, you know, in pair of gloves and get in the ring, you know. Same thing with karate fighters that are doing, you know, fighting, a fighter, period. You know, any martial art. There's a shelf life and then you're done. Now what? You know, so you got to study the art and it's all encompassing. So I don't believe in a mix of anything. I believe that all martial arts have what is needed because the situations are human nature. Do I need to get out of a choke? Do I need to get out of a headlock? Do I need to get out of a full Nelson? Do I need to get out of a body lock? Well, I know how to do all of those, and I've only studied karate. So a Jeet Kune Do person would say the same. A Hapkido person would say the same. A Jiu-Jitsu person would say the same. And the Jiu-Jitsu that people know here is not even Jiu-Jitsu. It's grappling part of Jiu-Jitsu. Go to Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. That's the real stuff. So, you know, you kind of get like an all, like they have all these character, you know, like kicking, punching, strangles, this, that, you know, like clinching, gripping, all these things. Each martial art has those, but the principle is different. In karate, it's no different.
Dude, that's crazy. I get where you're coming from. I get it's basically saying that you should be really good at what you're doing, right? Like that's what you kind of believe.
Well, man, I wish I would have just said that.
No, you break it down. I'm dumbifying it for me.
I want people to know that karate is much more. My passion is that karate is way more than what people think. It's not what you see on Disney Plus. It's not what you see, you know, in the Ninja Turtles. The Karate Kid movies with you know, the Cobra Kai and all that stuff, right? Like, you know, I got my my spin, right? I got my spin on it. Kai means society. Where's that? Right here. Kai, Cobra Kai, Kyokushin Kai.
Okay.
Shoto Kai, right? Kai means fraternity, group, society, culture, community. So my dojo is Claycomb Kai, the community of Claycomb in my dojo, right? So that's what Kai means. But basically, when it comes to karate, I want people to know about it. And Michael, you know, chose fighting, not me. So I said, well, if we're going to do this, I'm going to have your back because I have your best interest and I love you. And we're going to do this the right way. And I'm not going to let anyone take advantage of you. And I'm going to make sure we have the best people around us in character and in knowledge and skill experience. That's why Rage is with me. That's why I'm with Rage. So when I say he's the best, I think he, on a MMA level, for the technical wisdom, maybe he's not the best, but he sure darn well is one of the best, who he can get somebody to go from here to here. And you see like, wow, how did that happen? Coach Rage. So, you know, he helped with Michael's mindset. He helped a lot of things. And, you know, and with karate, it's about being open-minded, learning new without rejecting, like absorb it, examine, trial, error, test tube it. And if it works for you, use it, you know? So karate isn't locked into just one thing. It just, we have something that nobody else does, which is body movement, footwork, and stuff that we are accustomed to in our sport. But you know, we do a lot of other things that are not in the sport too. So, you know, it's a martial art.
All right.
And I want people to know about it, you know.
Man, before we go, I gotta tell you about something. I was really ecstatic when I saw Dylan Ludwig was gonna go train with you guys. Uh, I,
Yeah, he's a good kid. He's a really good kid, and him and Raymond and Dylan, Michael, I should say, Michael, Raymond, and Dylan click so well. Like, you know, Raymond, you know, coming back from injury, he had his foot broken and all that. So he's coming back from injury. Him and Michael, Dylan, and Raymond are just like, and Dylan, man, Dylan, this guy, you know, he's cerebral. He, poor guy, you know, when he fought Raymond, you know, beat him, and I taught Raymond, you know, how to do the spin kick, and he landed that on him. But what people don't know about Dylan is that he really didn't have anybody really helping him very much when he was fighting. So it was kind of like it was he himself and him, and that was it. He didn't have the support. And you know, Rage reached out to him and said, you know, keep your chin up, you know, keep your heads up, you know, your head up, and you're going to be good. You're going to do something. You have potential. And that meant something to Dylan. And then after a few months, Dylan reached out and we invited him to the dojo. And when he found out that our culture is about family, you know, we do what we have to do to take care of our own. We don't just coach them. We call them the kids because they're like our kids, you know, so that means a lot. And he loves what I bring to the table. He loves what Coach Rage brings to the table, and then what Michael brings and what Raymond brings. And, you know, we have a good trifecta with those three right now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot coming, you know. Michael's not going to fight until probably, I want to say maybe May or June, because we're getting him laser surgery for his eye.
Okay.
So he's going to come back 1080p. And if you thought he was good before, wait till he can see.
That's awesome, man. We can't wait because I know I'm a big fan of your guys' gym now.
Oh, we appreciate it.
I've been a big fan. You know, when we went down there and we did the media day with FightersRep, and we had
yeah, that was a good day. That was a great day.
That was I knew you guys were legit. I like that it's just those two guys. Now it's three guys, but you guys can really, you know, teach those guys how you want to teach them. I knew when I saw Dylan was going there, I had watched, I had done like an in-depth review for a fight for Ray for his last fight. And to do that, I watched his previous fights, and he was fighting Cam. So I watched Cam's previous fights, and Dylan fought them both. And I thought Dylan looked really good in both those fights.
He did actually.
I thought he did a lot of things right. And I wouldn't want to get hit by him. You know, I go, man, when he gets in there with Joseph and Rage, those guys are going to really give him the mindset. And I knew that he was going to get technically better. I can't wait to see when he actually gets some more time, because I know that was just one camp.
Well, you know, when you know, and here's the thing too, like, you know, we're coaches, right? But we really don't act like coaches. You know, you know, Rage likes being called coach, but you know, that's, you know, he goes by that. But you know, I'm called sensei or shihan, and I'll tell you something. So sensei, do you know what that means? Sensei.
No, I don't.
So sen means future. So or in the future. So when you say, like, you know, you hear things like, you know, yeah, sensei, you know, all that, right? That's just, you know, but people think, oh, a teacher, you know. Sensei is basically someone who is leading you on the path that is in your future. That means he's not standing to the side and coaching you how to go about it. Sensei literally means he's on the path with you. He's just a little further along, and he's guiding you along the way, just like a parent does their whole life for their own children. So a sensei is not a coach where he has experience, stands on the side, and then, okay, now you do this, and then, carry on. That's why I feel like Rage is like a sensei too, because he has life experience that he brings to the table for these guys. And then I have my own life experience as well. And I don't go by coach. Technically, I go by Shihan, and my students, that means chief instructor, not master. I never will be called a master. But sensei is the term that means one who is leading you to your future in the journey that you are both on together. So my journey is still ongoing, and so whoever else is that I'm taking with me. So it's as much my journey as it is theirs.
Thank you for coming on, man. I really appreciated this podcast. I really enjoy learning something. I enjoy learning every day. Like I like learning new things. And thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I like doing the podcast because it gives me a platform to talk and it kind of explains some of the things that people may or may not, be able to understand. And I also have my own way of, saying things on Instagram or whatever, but I'm passionate about it. So I appreciate the opportunity with you, and George has done that with me a few times at FightersRep's podcasts. But this is cool. You got your own thing going on. So
yeah,
we're gonna have more of these now.
For sure, yeah. No, I'm gonna go deep now. I invested, man. I made my office back here. It's not decorated yet.
Hey, it looks good. Dark room.
I had to clean up my my back room, which I use for storage, and I was like, I'm gonna make this in an office. But
I sat in my backyard today. I'm just right next to the back gate. So
yeah,
nice
no,
weather.
It works. No, because before I was in my bedroom, and it was like, you don't want to show your bedroom all the time.
Yeah,
I had to move everything every time. I had to move all my wife's stuff, and so I was like, all right, I got to set up an office, and then I invested on new tech, new computers, new lights. So I'm gonna try and do these more often. Cover the fight still. Still gonna be covering FightersRep. Still gonna be covering MMA, the local stuff. I really like that. I'm not really that big into like UFC, like trying to cover that because I feel like everybody does that. I don't feel like anybody covers these fighters that are here on a local level.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's what I'm really into.
What would be cool is if you were to cover the fight game, but go to the local tournaments too. Go to the traditional tournaments like the judo tournaments, the karate tournaments. That's where if they want to have a fight career. Some of the biggest names are traditional guys: GSP, Lyoto, Wonderboy, Haraguchi. A lot of people that are traditional came from a traditional background, like Michael, and went into the fight game and made a big name and big waves. So you never know. You never know who you meet along the way. And, it's just another branch that you could go towards, if you felt like it. So
no, I hear you. Thank you so much for joining me, Coach. This has been an excellent show.
Thank you for having me, man. Thank you so much. I wish you all the best, and I hope I see you again. If not at the next event or another event, you just hit me up and on Instagram or wherever, and we'll talk soon. I look forward to it.
For sure. See you then.
All right. Thank you so much.